At the moment when the first Leopard 2 tanks crossed the Ukrainian border and entered the armed forces of Ukraine, it became known that Russia was withdrawing BTR-50 PKs from storage. It is hard to imagine a more vivid illustration of the degradation of the Russian army. The Russian propaganda publishers broke out in joyous cries. They love this case. That now we are removing 1,000 units from storage and now we will get a tangible superiority over the armed forces of Ukraine on the battlefield. Nonsense, of course. These people simply do not understand what BTR-50 is. This is not just obsolete equipment. The obsolete equipment is the T-62 tank, which, even though obsolete, remains in principle quite a formidable machine in capable hands. And this is literally an antique. Well, it is clear that it is impossible to compare Leopard 2 and BTR-50. This equipment is for completely different tasks. It's like comparing a knife and a machine gun. But from the perspective of their correspondence with modern combat requirements, it's like comparing a last-generation Mercedes and a cart pulled by a horse. There is such a term, old as mammoth poop. It is a perfect definition for such equipment. Let me remind you that these BTRs started to be produced in 1952. The last one was made in 1970. Share how old you were at that time. The youngest specimen is more than half a century old. What is left of them, given the conditions under which they are kept, you can imagine. This is the first generation of Soviet armored vehicles, which are not very far from the generation of armored vehicles that participated in World War II. If you look at the screen now, you can see the driver's seat. Can you imagine driving a vehicle like this in the 21st century? Literally like in a T-34 tank, they are not much different there. From the armament it has only a Kalashnikov machine gun, which was mounted on top, and that's it. Propagandists note its undoubted advantage in that it is very roomy, and instead of one infantry squad it can carry 2 infantry squads. This means that if hit by any anti-tank weapon, not 1 but 2 infantry squads would be killed in this transporter. That's why its capacity is quite the opposite of positive. Armor there is about as cardboard, 8mm, running qualities, a hybrid of a snail and a turtle. The cross-country speed is 6 miles per hour. Even such ancient vehicles as MTLB was a masterpiece of military industry and technical thought comparing with it. Here is a review of this armored personnel carrier, which I found on the internet. In the early 90s we were sent to training exercises by the military department. And there, at the driving lessons were given exactly BTR-50. On the company gave 4 pieces. An enemy air raid could not have handled this wonder better than what happened to it these days. 2 broke at once, 2 the next day. Then we all got good grades, so we didn't mess up the scores. So the AFU doesn't even have to waste precious javelins and ATGM Stugna on this fossilized poo, they'll break on their own. It is hard to imagine a more vivid illustration of the degradation of the Second Army of the world, which went from the Armata tank to the BTR-50 in a year.